Ladies and gentlemen, Rex Bear League Project, how the heck are you? Isn't it fantastic the way things work out sometimes? Yesterday, I go out, have a couple of drinks. I rarely drink, and last night I decided to go out and have a couple of drinks, blow off some steam, and as I'm about to go home, just something draws me to this bar across the street slash club, kind of downtown San Antonio. So I go over there, and then all of a sudden, I see these awesome paintings. And here you go, right here. Look at this. Silent J from Clerks and Darth Vader. So, when the universe is talking to you, when you jump into stuff like this and just stumble upon it. And the name of the, if you want to find out more about this artwork, I definitely recommend checking out Saltwater Slide. And just incredible. Well, the gal Brady, she does all sorts of different work. And I just find it so interesting and unique when things like this happen. The universe, you're on the right path. I mean, what are some synchronicities you can think about that have happened to you that made you realize you were on the right path? Kind of like the universe was talking to you. It's also funny because if you've ever seen the film Clerks, it's kind of a cult film. A $5,000 budget. Every scene is just hilarious. I mean, absolutely incredible film. And in the film, there's a song by Alice in Chains that's played. And that song was the first song that came on today. First song that I started listening to when I presented this podcast. So, strange synchronicities, ladies and gentlemen. And another thing, too, that I was thinking about is, a lot of people ask me, Rex, how do you know if you're on the right path? How do you know you're on the right track? And I think there's a lot of signs that will present themselves to you if you're on the right path. I mean, it can almost be a continual thing. Multiple times throughout the day, you get these strange synchronicities that just you can feel and resonate with. And I would say you're on the right path when everything just starts getting put into place. You're hitting all the green lights on your way to work, as an example, and things just start falling in your lap. Whether you're helping somebody out or somebody helps you out, or as an example, jumping into saltwater slide yesterday, and the gal that does these and her son, I met both of them, really nice people. Well, they're going to come on the show possibly tomorrow or later on this week and discuss some of the esoteric side of things. And, very incredible. It's funny because I was talking about art just recently on the show, how I want to meet some unique artists and help promote their work. And here you go. It just happens, and I find it fascinating. Then you watch movies that you used to watch growing up, and then all of a sudden you realize there's a symbol in there, something that syncs with what you're currently talking about. I was bringing up Flash Gordon recently and the Sumerian Anunnaki symbolism and the ancient Greek mythology that has probably adopted their stories from the Sumerians. And who knows where the Sumerians got their stories from. Was it straight from the Anunnaki, or did they adopt it from somebody else also? Certainly fascinating to think about. You get into the Vedas. How about the Vedas that I was sharing with you guys recently, where they've got these cosmic weapons that can kill time and space itself beyond just a planet. And then was it Shiva that was given that gave the Godhead weapon for somebody to use. And then you see Shiva in front of CERN. It's like, the Indians, they just gave it to CERN because they're like, here you go, you guys are looking for the God particle, so we thought we'd give you the destroyer. It's once you really pick up these synchronicities and resonate with certain archetypes and symbols and sigils and even the sacred geometry and numerology, you really start to read the code. And I hope you guys are starting to pick up on that, especially if you've been listening to Leak Project for a while. I hope you're really starting to learn how to resonate and be in tune with source, with the universe, and pick up on these symbols and stuff. I mean, if you're driving to work and you very rarely see a hawk, and then one day you see a hawk just fly right next to you, and and it almost waits for you to drive past, and then it, you know, flies with you for a second and then goes off the other direction. That's a symbol that you should think about. That's something that you should ask yourself, why did that just happen? And, you know, it's like, I remember when I went to, just recently went out to the Badlands in South Dakota when I was out there for X Fest and the X Point, checking out my bunker, and stopped at one of my favorite places in the world. I shared that footage with you guys out there in the Badlands. And as I was driving back, as I left the place and saw the two rainbows, which is just amazing. Well, so it just was bizarre because there was thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of birds that were flying right in front of my van on the way out, and on the side of my van, and they were just going psh, 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 and I had never seen anything like it. And I started kind of thinking about that, and I've noticed ever since I started reading the Emerald Tablets of Thoth and really resonating at that level, animals and birds especially have been hanging out around me a lot more. I don't know if it's just because the vibrational frequency is a little bit different, or maybe I'm just imagining things because I'm a conspiracy theorist. I think there's something more to it. But that in particular, I remember for, I don't know, half an hour to 45 minutes, once I got back on the main road, and even on the way to the main road, just so many birds kept flying around the van, and I don't know, it was very fascinating. It was really cool. So what are you resonating with? What do you look for? I mean, are there certain things that you do during the day when you have a particular thought in your mind and you look at the clock and it's 11:11, or maybe you resonate with, you know, 42, the sum of all things, the answer of the universe? You know, I've heard that the number 42 is also Thoth's, one of Thoth's power numbers. So maybe that's why they used that number specifically in the film The Hitchhiker Guide to the Galaxy. You know, like, just give you an example. You look at different, one connection that I was able to resonate with, and I noticed a few years ago, was the sun symbol in virtually all bank logos. Almost every bank has a logo that has some type of sun symbol within the logo. And even credit unions. And then I thought to myself, well, why do they represent the sun? Is it because they're worshiping the sun, or is it because they're actually harnessing the energy that comes from the sun, and they realize that the sun itself is an embodiment of light, of life? And then you can get even deeper and say, well, did Marduk/Ra take over our sun in our solar system? And is that like the representation of the higher self of Ra that the Egyptians speak of? I mean, it gets pretty deep. So when you can start learning more of these metaphorical aspects and learn about the ancients and what it was like for them 5,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, you read about the ancients that were here before the moon. And there's so much speculation on what the moon even is, and what happened to Saturn, and you know, these strange moons that orbit the inner rings of Saturn that look like giant Death Stars, CERN type devices. I don't know. I'm pretty certain that CERN can be used as a weapon of mass destruction that can not only wreak havoc on matter, but time itself. I am absolutely resonating with that right now, especially after yesterday when I was reading through some of the Vedas and the cosmic weapons, and one of the most powerful Brahma weapons, the weapon of Godhead, can change time, can destroy time and space itself. And guess who was given that weapon? Guess who gave that weapon away? Shiva. I mean, there's a reason they're putting Shiva there. And then there's, when they had that party at CERN, and I did a podcast on this, where there was one part where there's this guy with this real long gray hair. He looked like a, you know, typical genius engineer, and he was sitting in his office, and there was a whole bunch of books piled up, and he was holding up a sign that said something Mandela and something Bond, and, you know, James Bond. What if, by finding the God particle, these guys are able to actually change time? Because maybe they're connecting time to a specific particle. Think about that for a minute. Could actually changing particles at the quantum level change time itself? That's a good theory right there. which by changing just one particle at the quantum level could literally change time to where certain events are different. And so how would you keep track of that? If you were doing experiments and you were going to crack the code of the time frequency via particle, via the tiniest source, by creating a huge amount of energy and emitting it into this just minute, tiny spot, just, and that changes the particle of time, which therefore changes the Mandela effect. That's the Mandela effect right there. Bingo. Problem solved. Nanu, nanu, nanu. CERN, Mandela, CERN finding the God particle, putting so much power into such a small space, that changes time itself. That's why people are starting to think of these alternative realities, because maybe the realities aren't changed the way that we think they are. Maybe it's being changed by all of this energy just being shoved and pushed into one point of reference, which in return affects the entire archetype of everything at the quantum level. It's messing with the quantum code. CERN is messing with the quantum code, the weapon given from Shiva. Round and round and round we go. Which cycle is this, ladies and gentlemen? Wow, that just came to me right now. And what are your thoughts on that? That just flowed right there. Nanu, nanu, nanu. Question everything. Be the change you want to see. LeakProject.com. And another huge shout out to Saltwater Slide. Beautiful, beautiful. So, Darth Vader and Jay and Silent Bob. I mean, what a coincidence. What is the coincidence that you start talking about Jay and Silent Bob a day or two before you meet an incredible artist that paints beautiful paintings of Darth Vader? And, and she also, I wish I would have got this one. I'm going to have to get it. She had Wonder Woman that she drew. I've got a print of one of her prints that she did, but not an original. But isn't that awesome? Wonder Woman's looking good. Hello. Meow. And this is another one she did. Saltwater Slide. The alien's busting out the be quiet symbol. He's practicing some magic. Saltwater Slide. So, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Have a beautiful day. Ladies and gentlemen, Rex Bear Leak Project, how the heck are you? Isn't it fantastic the way things work out sometimes? Yesterday, I go out, have a couple of drinks. I rarely drink. And last night, I decided to go out and have a couple of drinks, blow off some steam. And as I'm about to go home, just something draws me to this bar. Interesting and unique when things like this happen. You know the universe, you're on the right path. I mean, what are some synchronicities you can think about that have happened to you that made you realize you were on the right path? Kind of like the universe was talking to you. It's also funny because if you've ever seen the film Clerks, it's kind of a cult film. A $5,000 budget. Every scene is just hilarious. I mean, absolutely incredible film. Across the street / club, you know, kind of downtown San Antonio. So I go over there, and then all of a sudden I see these awesome paintings. And here you go, right here. Look at this. Silent J from Clerks and Darth Vader. So, you know when the universe is talking to you, when you jump into stuff like this and just stumble upon it. And the name of the, you know, if you want to find out more about this artwork, I definitely recommend checking out Saltwater Slide. And just incredible. Well, the gal Brady, she does all sorts of different work. And I just find it so interesting. And in the film, there's a song by Alice in Chains that's played. And that song was the first song that came on today. First song that I started listening to when I presented this podcast. So, strange synchronicities, ladies and gentlemen. And another thing, too, that I was thinking about is, you know, a lot of people ask me, Rex, how